Buenas tardes a todos. Muchas gracias por estar aquí en la presentación de La razón de estar contigo y La razón de estar contigo, un nuevo viaje, en nombre de Penguin Random House y Editorial Aguilar, bueno, Editorial Roca, disculpen. Les damos la más cordial bienvenida. Les platico un poco de nuestro querido autor. Él escribió guiones para películas y para televisión, como por ejemplo, todos acordarán del programa 8 Simple Rules. Es humorista y ha ganado diversos premios. También ha escrito varios libros, los cuales han sido película, y el más famoso es A Dog's Purpose, La razón de estar contigo. Actualmente se encuentran grabando la secuela A Dog's Way Home, y la grabación se está llevando a cabo en Canadá. Esta película la tendremos en 2018, y la película La razón de estar contigo, un nuevo viaje, vendrá en 2019. Por favor, démosle un fuerte aplauso.
And do you want me to put these in my ears? Okay. Oh, and now I can listen to music. I was told I could have a handheld mic so I could walk around. Is that okay? I have never had a spontaneous translation talking into my ear while I'm listening. I'm finding it sounds like, I feel like I'm insane. Okay, he gave me permission to take it out. What a beautiful place this is. Thank you so much for having me here. I've not been to Mexico as an adult ever, and some would say that I'm not an adult. But I have really enjoyed being here. The people are so friendly and warm and welcoming, and it's quite a change from Los Angeles, where I currently live. People are not that friendly there. So thank you so much for having me. We know that I probably like dogs. May I ask how many people here have a dog? You hold show of hands. A lot of you. Thank you. That's great. How many people have seen the movie A Dog's Purpose? And how many people have read the book that it's based on? I've read it too, so I'll hold up my hands. That's wonderful. I used to stand up and tell jokes in front of crowds. That was how I made my living. And then I had these books, like I had 8 Simple Rules for dating my teenage daughter. It was things like, if you pull into my driveway and honk your horn, you better be delivering a package because you're not picking anything up. And these rules were put into place because I had teenage daughters, and I noticed that they went upstairs one day and they were wearing their footy pajamas and they were really cute. And then they came down the next day and they had on makeup, and they looked like they were going to go out into the world and be pole dancers. And I was very upset with that, so I wrote these rules. And then I would talk about that, and then I wrote a book called How to Remodel a Man, because I discovered on my tour that there were people who want to see men change, and I call these people women. And I had discovered in my studies that there was a survey done, and men spend 70% of their time thinking about just 3 things: sports, sex, or nothing at all. You see, a man, remember the Brontosaurus? Remember studying the Brontosaurus? It was this huge dinosaur. It was so big that it had a big brain, of course, in its head. But then, because it was so huge, all the way back in the tail, it had a tiny brain. That's what men are like, only without the big brain. So, but then I started writing about dogs. what am I gonna do? Am I gonna tell dog jokes? I mean, who makes, so I have one dog joke, so we'll see how well this goes. So there's two brothers, Nathan and Charlie. And Nathan is the worker. Nathan is the one who makes the money. Charlie lives in Nathan's basement and doesn't really accomplish much of anything. And after several years, Nathan gets tired of this and says, Charlie, I am going to take a cruise. I'm going to get on one of those big boats where for a week you can't hear from me. I won't have radio. I won't have telephone. All you have to do is take care of the dog and take care of Mom. Can you do that, Charlie? Charlie says, yeah, I could do that. So Nathan's on the cruise. After about 3 days, he can't stand it. He decides to go up to the ship-to-shore radio, call home, and talk to his brother. He calls, Charlie answers. He says, Charlie, I know I said I wasn't gonna call, but I have to. Tell me, how are things? How's my dog? And Charlie says, oh, your dog's dead. And Nathan says, Charlie, you don't tell me that while I'm on vacation. You say, the dog jumped the fence this morning. And so now I'm concerned, and then I call back and you say, yeah, we still haven't found your dog. So I'm thinking, oh, and I'm preparing myself emotionally. So when I finally call and you say, yeah, we found your dog and your dog is dead, I'm ready for that news. And Charlie says, oh, you are so right. I am so sorry. And Nathan says, you know, that's okay. That's okay. How's Mom? Charlie says, well, Mom jumped the fence this morning. So that's my one dog joke. What I would rather do than stand up here and talk at you would be to have a conversation with you, where you could ask me any question that you brought to the room tonight, and we could talk about that. So most speakers will talk for 45 minutes, and then they'll say, I'm taking questions. I'm taking questions just as soon as we want. That's just how I do this. I hope that's okay with you. I'll tell you, I have a friend with a talking dog. It's wild, because he didn't know the dog could talk. And over many years, he was feeding the dog that's expensive, canned, wet dog food. And it was too expensive, and so he decides that he's got to save some money. So he puts dry dog food in the dog bowl. And the dog walked up and looked in the bowl and said, what the hell is this? And my friend said, you can talk? And the dog said, yeah. And he said, well, why haven't you ever said anything before? And the dog said, well, there's never been a problem before. So I love talking dog stories, and that's not the only one you're going to hear tonight. The people who saw A Dog's Purpose, I went to see A Dog's Purpose in the theater one time, and in the front row, there was a woman with a big dog, so big that it had to sit in its own chair. And it was watching the movie, and every time something fun would happen, the dog would wag his tail, and I thought, the dog is really liking this movie. So after the movie was over, I went down to her and I said, your dog loves this movie. I'm just amazed. And she says, I'm amazed too, because he really didn't care for the book. So I've invited you to think of some questions. I'm going to put this translator thing in my ear so that we can answer them, which is going to put the pressure on you now to ask a question. But I know you didn't come here just to hear me just talk the whole time. You came to hear me sing, right? Okay, does anyone have a question? You, sir, yes. Yes.
I think it's obvious, but do you believe in reincarnation? Pienso que es obvio, pero ¿crees en la reencarnación?
Actually, I don't know. I do know that if I'm reincarnated, I'm skipping being 14. I'm not doing that again. It's the worst year of my life. I think it's possible, but I think that if we do get reincarnated, that I would rather do it the way Bailey does and remember my previous lives. Because I think if you're reincarnated and you don't remember, then what's the point? So, great question. Thank you so much. So I see other people thinking, oh no, he's going to make me ask a question. I won't call on you. This isn't school. But if you have anything you'd like to talk about. So I'll tell you another thing about a talking dog. So I was driving down the road and I saw a sign that said, talking dog for sale, $5. And I thought, well, that's hilarious. So I drove up the driveway and I got out and there was a dog sleeping in the sun. And just to amuse myself, I said, are you the talking dog? And the dog said, as a matter of fact, I am. I said, this is amazing. You've got to tell me your story. What is this? And the dog said, well, when it was discovered that I could talk, I joined the military. And I was shipped overseas. And I would go behind enemy lines. And I would listen to their plans. And then I would come back and report it. And then we would not be ambushed. Well, the problem with that was, after a while, they figured out I could understand what they were saying. So I had to be brought back. So I joined the United States Coast Guard. And we would go out in the boats at night, and I would swim out and swim to boats, and I would smell for contraband. And if I smelled contraband, I'd come back and tell the Coast Guard, and they would arrest the smugglers. But I grew tired of that because the water was so cold. So I came back here, and now I work for the fire department. And when there's a fire, I run into the building, and I run around looking to see if there's anybody in the building. And if there is, I come back and report it to the fire department. And while this dog was telling me all this amazing stuff, his owner came out and came up to me, and I said, is this your dog? He said, yes. I said, I just got to ask. I mean, it's a talking dog. He says, yeah, I know. I said, and you're selling it? Yes. Why? And why so cheap? He said, because the dog's a liar. It never did any of that stuff. So yes, this is going to be this kind of conversation. Can I ask for another question? Did anybody bring a question here? Yes?
How long have you been writing about dogs? How long have you been writing about dogs, or why did you start writing about dogs? And were you an animal person since you were a kid, or what?
Great question, yeah. I'll tell you how this whole dog thing started. I got a TV show on the air called 8 Simple Rules. It was starring John Ritter. And so I moved up to LA to work in Hollywood. And then something really, really unfortunate happened, which was that John Ritter passed away. And so the show was canceled. And I was casting about for what I was going to do. Like I said at the top, I used to write funny books and just humor books. But humor books, sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. Like some of my jokes will work tonight, some of them won't. That's how that works. That's the way that is. So I wanted to get to writing novels, but I didn't have the idea of what might be my best idea. And then one evening, I'm driving up the coast of California, and in the car with me is a woman that I had just started dating. And she turned to me just out of the blue because her dog had died recently. And it was her only dog. She'd never had a dog before. And she said to me, I will never have another dog. This was bad news because I was really starting to like this woman, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to live without a dog. So I wanted to tell her a story. When I'm trying to make a point, I usually tell a story. I wanted to tell her a story that would convince her that when her dog died, the thing that was most on her mind, on the dog's mind, was that she wanted this woman to get another dog. Because dogs believe that we need them. Dogs believe that a person without a dog is incomplete. So I told her the story about this dog that reincarnates and remembers each life. It worked. We have a dog. She liked the story so much she married me. And so, good story, right? And interestingly, though, this is the way I write a book is a lot like a mouse running a maze. You ever see a mouse in a maze? They go until they get stopped. And then they go back to where it made sense and they try a different direction. That's how I write. I will be writing and then I'll say, this no longer makes any sense. And then I'll come back to where it made sense and try a different direction. That's not what happened with A Dog's Purpose. What happened with A Dog's Purpose is it came into my head like I was watching a movie. Like I was sitting in the theater and it just came and came and came and came. The entire book, every line of dialogue, every person, everything. That has never happened to me before or since. I can't explain it, except I do know where I was spiritually at that point, which was I had come out to Hollywood thinking I was going to be a big shot, right? I have a TV show. They wanted to make a TV show out of How to Remodel a Man. So I'm going to be I'm going to be really important. I'm going to have lunch with Matthew McConaughey. And then John Ritter died and it all went away. And I realized it wasn't me. Like I wasn't that important in the world. There were things that were a lot more important. And when I opened myself up to that realization, and I realized that I had lost my humility, I had stopped thinking of myself as anything but really important, and I wasn't. And when I found my humility, and I said, basically, I can't do this without you. I need help. And it wasn't long after that this entire story comes into my head, seamlessly comes into my head, beginning to end. And I will tell you that the book that so many of you have read changed not at all from the story that I told that night in that car with that woman. Great question. Thank you so much for that. Yes. Are you yawning or do you have a question?
How long did you take to write this book, and how long have you been writing another novels, or how long?
Yeah.
How long
Yeah. I have a very disciplined routine. It starts, and this is very important, with procrastination. I absolutely keep putting it off. That's the first step. Then I go through a period of self-loathing where I look at myself in the mirror and say, you've got to start writing. Then I'll have a snack. If I'm going to go all the way to the kitchen, it should be a big snack, so I have a big snack. Usually after a snack that big, I need to take a nap, so I take a nap. Then I wake up and it's too late to start writing, so my day is shot. So because of that approach, which is very successful, and I would recommend anybody who wants to be a writer, you'd try the same thing. It'll go great. Because of that approach, it takes me about a year to write a book. I wish it didn't. I wish I could do a book every couple of months, but some people can do that, but I can't. But I really appreciate the question. Thank you so much. For those of you who are just wandering in, hello, welcome. Hi. We're doing a question and answer approach to this instead of me just standing up here speaking to you. And I would love it if you brought with you a question about A Dog's Purpose, A Dog's Journey, the movie. I will tell you all something that you may or may not know, which is I've got another book. It's called A Dog's Way Home. And when I leave here, I'm going back to Vancouver because we're shooting that movie up in Vancouver right now. My wife and I wrote the screenplay, and it stars James Edward Olmos, and I'm sure there's other people in it. All I can remember is the dogs. We've got some great dogs. One of the dogs is named Shelby. We adopted Shelby from a shelter in Nashville, Tennessee, outside of Nashville. This dog was living in a landfill and was eating garbage, was neglected, didn't feel loved, and animal control picked her up. And we found her we were searching online for a dog who looked like the dog that's on the cover of A Dog's Way Home. And Shelby really fits that bill. So we flew down there to meet Shelby, and she was the most gentle soul. She was so trusting. And for somebody who'd been in a junkyard, frankly, people were shooting at her because that's what they do. They consider the dogs that are in there to be open game, open season. So they've been shooting at this poor dog, and nobody had loved this dog. And we took Shelby out of that shelter. She went home with the dog trainer, and the trainer said the first 6 months, she just had to convince Shelby that it was okay to eat dinner, that she wasn't going to get in trouble, that she could sleep on the bed, that she was going to be fed and bathed and loved. And so her training was just getting used to being a normal dog. But she took to it, she loved it, and then she started learning, and the training is so interesting for a movie dog. Because in a movie, you'll see a dog, when you see Bailey doing things, that dog is actually named Trip, and most of the tricks that it's doing is based on, there's a piece of wood you can't see, and Trip goes over to stand on the piece of wood, and then he changes direction if that's what we tell him to do. There's a scene where they're at the very end of the movie, if you remember, there's a big dog named Bolt, that's his name. And Bolt goes back to the farm to see Dennis Quaid, who is his owner. And they have this trick that they do where they bend over and then the dog jumps. And Trip was doing this with this little boy that was playing young Ethan. But Dennis Quaid said, wait a minute, this dog weighs 110 pounds. And you want it to jump over me. If it misses, I'm gonna be going to the hospital. So the way we did that trick was Bolt jumped over a table, and then we shot Dennis Quaid bending over, and it was edited together. A lot of what you see in the movie was done that way. There's a scene, for example, where the puppy and the kitten are interacting. That was shot separately. The kitten was in the room, and then the dog was in the room, because we didn't want to take a chance that the dog might not like the kitten, or that the kitten might be frightened of the dog. So we shot them separately. So that's how that's done. There's a scene in A Dog's Way Home where there are these coyotes that are tracking the dog, and eventually they attacks the dog and attacks Shelby, who's Bella in the movie. They were shot entirely separately. They never interacted with each other. Shelby really wanted to get out and play with the coyotes, and we told her you can't do that. So, great question, thank you. Yes?
Hi, Bruce.
Hi.
Did you like the result of the movie?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Did you like the result of the movie? I have two questions. The first one is that one, and the second one is that I've seen the book in the top list of the bestsellers in English, and if it happens the same in Spanish.
Yes.
¿Lo digo en español?
Thank you. Love those questions. Thank you. So I was one of the screenwriters for A Dog's Purpose. I will tell you that sitting down with your own book and saying, okay, I'm going to make a movie out of this, is torture. Because if you shot the book, if you just took every scene, and it would be a 12-hour. And nobody wants to sit and watch a 12-hour movie. Although it sometimes seemed that my mother's vacation movies when I was growing up lasted 12 hours because they were that boring. So you have to cut. And I wind up cutting things that really mean a lot to me. Scenes that I thought were really important, I've got to cut out. That's tough to do. In the end, making a movie brings so many people together and so many art forms, and everybody from the guy that makes the sandwiches to the person who designs the house is important. So it is a collaborative art. As such, it's not my perfect vision, but it's good enough. And the book, yes, thank you, was a #1 New York Times bestseller, and I've been told it's selling very, very well here. And I will tell you, I think we're in 33 countries. It's doing very well in all 33 countries. Thank you, great question. I thought I saw somebody waving a hand at me over here, but I guess I was absolutely hallucinating.
Buenas noches. No he tenido la fortuna de leer el libro, no he visto la película, sin embargo, ahora que estoy escuchando tu historia, pues veo que compartimos muchas emociones porque pues supongo que la experiencia que tiene usted al estar trabajando, al estar observando a los animales para luego crear y recrear escenas que luego pudieran plasmarse en el libro, y luego esa habilidad para poder trabajar con el productor de la película. Creo que usted tuvo esa gran oportunidad de convivir con perros y eso le da esa vitalidad que le ve a usted, esa juventud. Pienso que se la han transmitido tanto perro que ha tenido usted la oportunidad de convivir con ellos. Yo le voy a decir, yo tengo 9 perros en mi casa, recibo 3 visitas que a las puras 8 de la mañana llegan en punto porque también quieren comer. Esos son visitas, llegan, comen y se van con su dueño. Sin embargo, los que viven conmigo van a mi cama, pues ahí están mordiéndose uno al otro porque todos quieren ser el dueño de mí, o sea, yo soy de propiedad de ellos. Entonces, una competencia, pero todas las observaciones que hago de ellos, yo me imagino que usted pasó por esa experiencia. Y pues, quizá usted vio mi cara cuando al principio empezó usted a hablar, pero yo no tenía acceso a la traducción. Pero una vez que empecé a escuchar sus comentarios, es como cuando a los sordos les ponen sus audífonos y les hacen escuchar algo maravilloso. Volví a ser feliz. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. I don't know that I actually heard a question and all that, but I really appreciate everything you had to say. I'll tell you how I studied and learned to view the world through the eyes of a dog, to tell a story from the point of view of a dog. I did all the things that you would expect. I carried a tennis ball around in my mouth. I dug up the shrubbery, and I humped the neighbor's leg. These helped me understand how to be a dog. Most of what we think we know about dogs, we know because we studied the wolves. And most of what we know about the wolves, we know because we studied the wolves in captivity. Captive wolves behave much differently than they do in the wild, which we now know because we are able to send drones out to watch them instead of having to put them in captivity so that we could study them. And dogs aren't wolves. I mean, my dog is descended from wolves. Every dog has wolf DNA in it. But my dog, I look at my dog and say, where's the wolf? My dog won't come out of the room if there's a cardboard box in the hallway. My dog will run screaming if a plastic bag blows by in the wind. Where's the wolf? So I studied dogs in the dog park. I read dog books, but I went to the dog park and I watched, and it is fascinating to see how dogs behave. You know, because you've got 9 dogs, which is like 3 more than crazy. But you're a kind person, you take care of the dogs. And the larger point being, they have an entirely different society, much different than what we're accustomed to thinking of, because we think, well, there's the alpha male, and well, sure, except sometimes the alpha male switches from one dog to another, which, you know, in human existence, you really don't have that. The soccer players don't take the field and somebody says, I'm going to be the coach today. That doesn't happen. I don't think. Okay, that's good. I had a story I wanted to tell you that I'm sure won't make any sense, but I'm going to try, because I was thinking about when I was doing the How to Remodel a Man tour, people would come up to me and say, how many tools does a man need? And I'd say, all of them, because man is a tool-using creature, right? I've been taught that since I was a little boy. My father taught me that. My father figured out that I was not going to be a doctor. He was a doctor. He figured out I was not going to be a doctor when I was 4 years old, I stuck a pea up my nose and had to go to the emergency room 3 times in 1 week. He said, you're not going to be a doctor, are you? And one time he said to me, Bruce, I'm going to teach you something. And we were washing the car, and there was a bucket of water. And he said, what do you suppose would happen if I picked up this bucket and I swung it over my head? And I said, why would you do something like that? He said, what would happen to the water in the bucket? And I said, it would come out. He said, no, it wouldn't. The water will stay in the bucket due to something called centrifugal force. Well, I loved my dad. I really wanted to be on his side with this, but I knew about gravity. I was a little boy. I was always skinning my knees. I had fallen out of the tree right over our heads just a day or 2 before. So I knew that when he swung that bucket, that water was going to come out. So I said, no, Dad, you're wrong. He said, okay, I'll show you. And he picked up that bucket. He said, stand back. So I stood back. And he took that bucket, and he swung it once, and he swung it twice, and he swung it up over his head, and it hit the tree branch right over his head. And all the water came down. I said, see, Dad? I told you. Anyway, I was talking about tool making. One time I was staying I was on a sales, used to be a salesperson, and we were on a sales meeting somewhere. And we were staying in a condo. There were 4 of us. We each had a room. Nice condo, nice condominium. And a friend of mine on this thing was named Ted. And one night I noticed that the light in the living room was on, and I went out there, and Ted was standing in the living room. And Ted had been drinking. And I said, what are you doing, Ted? Well, this was back in the days when a contact lens was hard. And he had gotten a contact lens on his eye, and he couldn't get it out. And so he was going to stand in the living room because he knew if he fell asleep, that would be a bad idea. As long as he's standing, he's not sleeping. Well, because man is a tool-using animal, it occurred to me that in this condominium that we shared with 2 other men, there was a full kitchen. And the kitchen had a refrigerator. And the refrigerator had a freezer. And in the freezer, there was an ice maker. And the ice maker had a metal bar that would rise and fall with the level of ice. But to keep metal bar from sticking to the ice. It was covered in a thin, flexible tube. And I realized I could remove that tube and use it to suck the contact lens off Ted's eye. So I had Ted lie on the couch. I took the tube. I straddled Ted. I leaned over, put the tube in my mouth, put the other end on his eye, and just then the other two men walked in. I said, "Yes, gentlemen, this is exactly what it looks like." So for those of you just joining us, I've never said that before, but I hear it all the time on the radio. For those of you just joining us, we're doing mostly question and answer right now, so if you have any questions about, you have a question, good.
Hi.
Hi.
When the movie came out, there was a lot of controversy about a German Shepherd and the river scene, that the animal had been stressed or something like that. So I wanted to ask you about the safety of that dog, like what happened there. And another question, do you actually believe that dogs reincarnate, or was just an idea to sell the story?
So we'll start with the first one. Yes, when the movie came out, there was an edited tape that purported to show the dog being forced into the water. So it looked pretty bad. I thought it looked bad. I went to Amblin Entertainment and watched all the tape from that day. This dog was called Hercules the Water Dog because they couldn't keep him out of the pool. He loved the pool. It wasn't that he was afraid to go in the water. It was that the trick he was going to do, he had practiced from the other side of the pool for 3 days. And then the director said, "Why don't we try it from the other side?" So they took Hercules around to the other side and said, "Okay, we're going to do it from here." What you can't see in the tape is that 4 inches under the water, there is a platform. They were trying to set Hercules down on the platform and have him jump in from there. Hercules didn't want to do that. He knew where he got his treats. It was on the other side of the pool. So when you see him, he's like, "Let me out. I want to go over there and I'll jump in the pool, but I want to do it from over there." When I first saw that tape, it said the dog was terrified. I didn't see a terrified dog. I said, "Oh, he doesn't want to go into the water." I don't know why, because at that time, I didn't know that they had switched his position. He didn't want to go in the water because he wanted to go in from the correct side. He thought the people were doing it wrong. And like any good dog, he's trying to teach the people, no, this is how you need to do this. But safety of animals on movie sets. Every time we bring a live animal out, we try to do everything we can to treat that animal actor better than the people actors. And it is, I think, such a joy to watch them work because they love to work. I don't know, anybody who has a dog knows that they're so much happier when they have a job. My dog, Tucker, thinks his job is to chew the carpet. I keep saying, "Tucker, stop chewing the carpet." I have delivered a lecture to him on why Daddy does not want you to chew the carpet. Even though he attended that lecture, he still chews the carpet. And then because I live in a city and I have to clean up, after him, I've discovered that he is eating the evidence. There are carpet fibers in there. Thank you for that. So I have time for one more question. Does anybody have that? Over here, sir? Yes? Hang on, let me get my... I am ready.
Actually, I have the microphone.
Yeah, we need the microphone, please.
I requested first, sorry.
Oh, okay. All right, we're going to have it. Okay,
Sorry,
so
I win.
we're going to have a wrestling match now, ladies and gentlemen.
I have only one question. Why your dog? I know that it's the animal or part of your family, but really, I want to know the exact moment that you look at your dog and said, "Oh my God, your little but you're my inspiration. You're my everything, and I'm gonna reach and increase this relationship, you, me, and I'm gonna share this with the world. I really want to know the exact moment, you know? Like,
Yeah. I think I know what you're saying. Because when I look into my dog's eyes, I see something looking back that we humans crave, which is the love of another living being. I know my dog loves me. I know my dog loves me more when I make bacon, but I know that he loves me. And what I wanted to do with my dog books was capture that love, because I really believe that two things are true. The first is that real love never dies. You can't extinguish it, can't destroy it. And the second thing is that our real friends are always there for us if we just know where to look. I believe that the message of a dog's purpose is that our real friends are always there for us if you just know where to look. Are we going to give this gentleman a chance to ask his question? Yes. Thank you for that.
Buenas noches. ¿Cómo tú podrías recomendar a las personas que no tienen contacto con los perros, con los animales, cuál sería la mejor forma de empezarlos a encauzar a tener ese contacto? Porque hay gente que en su vida ha tenido perros, ha tenido contacto con animales y les tienen pánico, asco o cualquier otro tipo de sentimiento sin darse cuenta que son amor incondicional nada más, única y exclusivamente seres de amor incondicional. ¿Cómo se podría acercar un poquito más a esas personas que no han tenido? ¿Cómo los podríamos hacer? Y segundo, mi perro tiene la tarea de recoger los calcetines de toda la casa cuando yo lavo. Ese es su trabajo y es feliz.
That's
Sucios.
great. Should send them to
Gracias.
my house, because when I take off my socks, I can never remember to put them anywhere. They always just wind up lying there. I've been told this by someone else who lives in my house. The dog didn't tell me that. So I have a great answer for you. The way to get someone to start loving dogs is to have them read my book. You saw that one coming, right? Then have them watch the movie. I do know that there are some people who can't make that connection, and I feel sad for them. We are living now in bigger and bigger cities, and I really believe that people are more alone in a big city than they are living out in the country. They have less contact with people, but if they have a dog, they have a person, well, not a person, but they have a being in their life that loves them and is devoted to them all the time. And that is so important. So if you know a lonely person, try recommending a dog. They won't always, as you point out, they won't always want that, but they very often will. And I am so blessed that you came here tonight. Thank you so much for having me. This was such a wonderful time for me. Good night.
Bruce, before you leave, tenemos a la presidenta de la Fundación Animales AC, Judith Reina, quien te entregará un reconocimiento por tu labor que haces con los animales.
Es un reconocimiento de la Asociación Animal. Está conformada con todos mis compañeros que han trabajado arduamente por el bienestar animal. Quiero decirle algunas palabras. Gracias por su contribución a nuestra cultura de la sensibilidad hacia los animales y el medio ambiente. Gracias a su obra podemos apreciar que los animales juegan un papel positivo en nuestras vidas y eso hay que celebrarlo. En este libro hay mucho para inspirarnos y animarnos. Un animal de compañía enriquece la vida de las personas con quien vive y por eso debemos mantener nuestra relación con todos los animales y el medio ambiente. Usted está ayudando a construir un mundo en que el bienestar animal es importante. Gracias. Gracias, muchas gracias.
Bruce estará en el stand de Penguin Random House, que está sobre el pasillo principal, en la firma de libros, para que nos acompañen, por favor. Gracias.